Hello and welcome back to Disrupt Your Norm with Naomi Dunn. Today I'm speaking on how to practically work smarter and not harder. Because those who have made it in life had to recognize this at one point or another. So if you have not made it in the area you desire yet, it is going to benefit you so much to learn it now rather than later. So, the thing with working smarter rather than harder is I want you to first ask yourself because a common thing that I see is people actually desiring the harder route rather than the easier route. So, ask yourself, is there possibly an idea in my mind or a belief that I have that desires my life to be harder than it has to be? And if you have this belief and you recognize that it's showing up in your life, there is no shame in the game because it's actually so much more common than you would really believe. So common. And it's something I used to struggle with myself. Once we have the understanding that we might possibly have this desire for life to be harder rather than easier, I'm telling you, you are a million times further than the average person because our egos often don't allow us to even recognize that in the first place. Because who wants to go around saying, yeah, I like to have a harder life. I allow problems for myself because deep down I actually like it. But surprisingly, most people actually do. And it's the reason why most people suffer a lot more than they actually have to. It's a really interesting topic, and I could go into it for a very long time and the psychology behind that, and maybe I will another day. But right now, let's talk about how to practically apply working smarter, not harder. So, once you have the recognition of possibly you desiring to work harder rather than smarter, because at the end of the day, we would work in an easier manner if we really, really desired it. Live in an age of an a ridiculous amount of resources, like a ridiculous amount of resources, and we oftentimes don't take advantage of these resources, not because we're not allowed to, but because we think we have to go the hard route, or because we're not familiar with these resources. And not being familiar with something and not enjoying it because it's unfamiliar is really going to set yourself up for burnout and difficulties down the line, because you're making your life harder when you don't have to, because you think that learning the new thing is going to be harder than spending the 5 minutes of learning the new thing and having an easier life. So learn about your resources and also learn about your human resources. If you have the ability, if you have the money, and oftentimes you don't need that much money to actually have people help you in the areas that you are maybe not even struggling to do, but areas that are using up a lot of energy that don't have to because other people can help you. Now, the way to choose an area where someone can help you is by listing your priorities first. What are your priorities? What do you really need to get done? What is the most important priority that you have? And working from that list and going down. So, starting with the priorities, and say you have something at the bottom of the list that has to get done regardless, but it isn't the most important part. That's the area that you're going to allow someone to help you, because that will save your energy and your ability to do the most important part to the best of your ability. Because if we run ourselves thin, is that the phrase? Run ourselves thin? That's totally not the phrase. Run ourselves thin. I heard this phrase the other day and I was like, I forgot about that phrase. I'm going to start using it. Me attempting to use it, completely forgetting what it is. I think you guys know what I mean. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Drain your energy when we don't have to. Then when we do the most important part, our most important priority, we're not going to do it to the best of our ability, and that's the last thing that we want. We want to do the most important parts to the best of our ability, and areas that we can receive help in, allow yourself to be helped. We have this misconception so much of the time that receiving help is weak and receiving help is a negative trait in our character, but it is purely the opposite of that. We are designed as humans to have connection and to receive help from others and to give help to other people at the same time. And that's the way that God made us. And so if you try to go against your own human DNA and design, you're going to struggle, period. All right, so now I'm going to give you a question to ask yourself and a perspective shift that you need to have to work smarter, not harder. So the question you need to ask yourself is what I'm doing necessary for the desired goal? Because oftentimes we do the unnecessary parts that actually take us further from the goal because we're afraid of achieving the goal. And so we're not doing the most essential steps. So here's an example of this. If you're saying, okay, I really need to write up this email, but first things first, I have to clean my room because I need to have a clean room before I write up this email, if you're working from home or whatever. So, yes, that step can help you, and I'm all about making a great atmosphere for yourself and your goals. But are you actually doing this because you need to do this, or you're doing this because you don't want to make the real steps that you have to make and you're making your life harder and you're adding all of these additional steps so that you're working harder, not smarter? So ask yourself, is what I'm doing exactly what I need to be doing or something I should be doing to get the desired goal, or am I just making my life harder? And number two, the perspective shift that to have is I get to make this easy. This gets to be fun. This gets to be exciting. Add any adjective you would like that resonates with you. This gets to be joyful. This gets to be exciting. Or I just said that this gets to be uplifting. So you may be saying it's not actually possible for me to add that adjective to this situation, but the thing is in life there is always opposites. There's always an up and a down. There's always a right to a left. There's always a front and a back to everything. There is going to be one area and then an opposite area. So anytime something negative happens, there's always an equally positive thing to that situation. I believe this to my core. And when you have that perspective, even if something is extremely hard, your perspective could be this extremely hard thing is upskilling me in a way that I would have never been upskilled prior, or this extremely difficult and annoying thing that's happening is giving me the ability to have a level of mental toughness that I never had before. This gets to be exciting. This gets to be fun. This gets to be uplifting. So there is always a positive perspective you can have on the work that you're doing, and that's something you need to learn to habitually train yourself to do so that you feel more energized and you do the work in a smarter way rather than harder way, because when you're energized and optimistic about the work that you're doing, and this isn't just work in the workplace, this is also inner work as well, which I speak so much about on this podcast. So you can apply it to any form of work or any form of steps that are required for you to get your goal. So having a more optimistic perspective on it allows you to do the steps you need with a lot more ease, and you work smarter and not harder because of it. So, yeah, thank you so much for listening. I hope that helped you and you get to apply it to your life. Remember, knowledge is not powerful unless it's applied. So, please apply this if it resonates with you. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.